Shalakhya Chakshush Anmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nidina. Hare Krishna, I'm sorry, I think I lost connection. We'll start now. Okay, so today we are starting with the fourth chapter, Transcendental Knowledge. This chapter is divided into 5 sections. The first section is from verse number 1 to 10, and it's called Transcendental Knowledge about Krishna. And then from 11 to 15, we understand about Krishna as the goal of all paths and the creator of Varnashram Dharma. Then 16 to 24, Karam Yoga. This is for Gyanis. This Karam Yoga is basically for Gyanis. Then 25 to 33, we understand that all the sacrifices, they result in knowledge. And from 34 onwards till 42, it's the summary of transcendental knowledge. So today we will start with the first section, that is transcendental knowledge about Krishna. Okay, before that, let's also discuss, what's the connection between chapter 3 and chapter 4. So in the last chapter, we saw that Krishna ended with the lust and anger and all, right? He was talking that we have to beware of lust and anger. Arjuna asked Krishna that what forces us to act sinfully? What forces one to abandon his prescribed activities? And then Krishna describes that our eternal enemy is in the form of lust. And how one can conquer that? One can conquer lust by working in Krishna consciousness with steady intelligence, fixed intelligence, with intelligence fixed in knowledge of one's pure identity. When we understand who we are, what is our relationship with God, our nature is to serve the Lord, Sanatan Dharma. And with that intelligence, if we perform our prescribed duties for the pleasure of Krishna, then we can conquer lust. So here now, Prabhupada will explain it in the purport anyways, but transcendental knowledge, the spiritual knowledge, that is the knowledge of the soul, of God and their relationship. And that is the fruit of selfless devotional service. Or we can say Nishkam Karma Yoga also. When we do Nishkam Karma Yoga, then we get the transcendental knowledge. What is transcendental knowledge? The knowledge of soul, God and their relationship. Now the Lord explains the remote history of Bhagavad-Gita in this chapter now, in the 4th chapter in the beginning. And what is the purpose and significance of his periodic descents to the material world? From time to time, every millennium, he comes here. And then what is the necessity of approaching a guru, a realized teacher? Why do we need to have a guru in our life? So he will explain all that. So we will discuss the last part after reading this first verse. In the purport, Prabhupada only will explain that. So what is the connection between 3rd and 4th chapter concerning lust? Verse number 1, Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivasavan manave braha manur ikshuvakve bravet. Someone please read the translation and purport. Who would read? Raman Prabhu, you want to read? Shweta Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
I'm
Krishna.
going ahead with translation. Yeah. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god, Vaishnavan and
The sun god
Vivashwan.
Vivaswan and Vivaswan.
Vivashwan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Purport. Herein we find the history of the Bhagavad-Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order of all planets, beginning from the sun planet. The kings of all planets are especially meant for the protection of the inhabitants, and therefore the royal order should understand the science of Bhagavad-Gita in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the executive heads of all states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path, utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. Mataji, shall I pause here or shall I continue?
You can continue, Mataji, till at least, after this verse we have translation, and the sun is the king of all planets. That will be half of the purpose. So you can read till that point here.
Yes, Mataji. Yeah, just a minute. Just a minute, Mataji, please.
Okay, if you need time, Mataji, no problem. Someone else can read. That's okay.
Just grabbing my book quickly because I'm just read out from the
Okay.
screen sharing itself. Yeah,
Okay.
I just got my Bhagavad-Gita book
Okay.
now handy. Yeah.
Okay, that's okay.
In this millennium, the sun god is known as Vivashwan, the king of the sun, which is the origin of all planets within the solar system. In the Brahma Samhita 5.52 verse, it is stated, Yachakshureshu Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesha Tejaha Yasyajnaya Brahmati Samhruta Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Let me worship. Lord Brahma said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person and under whose order the sun, which is the king of all planets, is assuming immense power and heat. The sun represents the eye of the Lord and traverses its orbit in obedience to his order. The sun is the king of the planets, and the sun god at present of the name Vivashwan rules the sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivashwan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not therefore a speculative what is that? Treatise for the insignificant mundane scholar, but it is a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. Shall I continue, Mataji?
No, that's okay, Mataji. You can take a break. Someone else can read now.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Who wants to read next? Gayatri Mataji? Okay, please. go ahead.
I can read.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
In the Mahabharata, we can trace out the history of Gita as follows. Treta Yugadau sa tato vivasvan manave dadao manussa loka brit ardham sutaye kesha kave dadao ikshvakuna sa katito vyapya lokan avastitah. In the beginning of the millennium, known as Treta Yuga, this science of the relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivasvan to Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaja Ikshvaku, the king of this earth planet and forefather of the Raghu dynasty, in which Lords Ramachandra appeared. For Bhagavad-Gita existed in human society from the time of Maharaja Ikshvaku. At the present moment, we have just passed through 5,000 years of the Kali Yuga, which lasts 432,000 years. Before this, there was Dwapara Yuga, 8 lakh years, and before that, there was Treta Yuga, 12 lakh years. Thus, some 2,05,000 years ago, Manu spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son Maharaja Ikshvaku, the king of this planet Earth. The age of the current Manu is calculated to last some 3 crore 5 lakh years, of which 1 crore 20 lakh 40,000 have passed. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god Vivasvan. A rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least
12 crore.
12 crore years ago. And in human society, it has been extant for 2 million years. It was re-spoken by the Lord again to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago. That is the rough estimate of the history of the Gita according to the Gita itself and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Sri Krishna. It was spoken to the sun god Vivasvan because he is also a Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god or the Surya Vamsa Kshatriyas. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this knowledge is aparuseya, superhuman. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are without human interpretation, the Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but that is not Bhagavad Gita as it is. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is from the disciplic succession, and it is described herein that the Lord spoke to the sun god spoke to his son Manu, and Manu spoke to his son Ikshvaku. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
You.
Okay, so we were talking about the connection between the end of the 3rd chapter and the 4th chapter. Like Krishna was talking about Karam Yoga and lust and all, and why he has moved to transcendental knowledge all of a sudden. So we saw that in in the last part of 3rd chapter, Krishna discussed how lust covers our knowledge and how then ignorance binds us with our own attachments and all. And Krishna recommended a dutiful, detached work, that is Nishkam Karma Yoga, as the means to attain transcendental knowledge. We get the knowledge, and then when we work with that knowledge, we can free ourselves from the bondage. So there he had talked about knowledge. If you see the 43rd verse of the 3rd chapter, the translation also says, thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So by spiritual intelligence, we can conquer the enemy lust. The spiritual intelligence is, Prabhupada says, Krishna consciousness. So now to get that spiritual intelligence, we need transcendental knowledge. So Krishna will now, he will tell that, okay, what is that knowledge? And he begins by telling us the history of that. Another thing is, if you see the purport, Prabhupada says, the kings of all, the 3rd line itself, the kings of all planets are especially meant for the protection of the inhabitants. And therefore, the royal order should understand the science of Bhagavad-Gita in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. So that is the reason Krishna had chosen Sun God to give this knowledge, because he was the ruler for the royal order. He is the king of all the planets, so that he could pass this knowledge to everybody down and could help them free from material bondage. And now Arjuna also, he is a Kshatriya. So if he gets this knowledge, then all the citizens can be delivered with his help. So Prabhupada says, and that is the purpose of Krishna, why he has chosen these kings to give this knowledge. Got it? So the kings of all planets, they should have this knowledge, and then they can rule in such a way, they can guide the citizens in such a way that everyone can be protected from this material bondage. And then Prabhupada, in the purport, he talks about a sun god, that how sun god is working under Krishna's order. That is the shaloka of this Brahm Samhita, Yachakshuresha Savita Sakal Grahana. So sun is also under, he is the king of all planets, but still he is assuming his power and heat, everything from whom? From Krishna. Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. And so the sun's, the ruling, at present, who is ruling sun? That is Vivaswan. So Vivaswan was the first person to get this knowledge. He is the first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. So we should know that. And then Prabhupada says how it was passed on. In the purport, in the verse itself, Krishna is telling that first it was given to Vivaswan, then Vivaswan gave it to Manu, and then Manu gave it to Ikshvaku, and that's how it was passing down. And Prabhupada explains about the history of Bhagavad Gita. So this is extant in the human society for how long? For about 2 million years. So it is really, really long, but the parampara was lost. That's why it was spoken again some 500 years ago. So here it's about the history of Bhagavad Gita. Basically, Lord spoke to the sun god, the sun god spoke to, that's the last line of the purport. And so that's all. That's the main thing in this verse. We will move on, and Krishna will continue with this, that okay, it was passing on like that, but then what happened? एवं परंपरा प्राप्तम इमं राजर्षो विधु स काले नह महता योगो नष्टा परंतप. Someone please read the translation and purport.
Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please go ahead.
This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplinic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in the course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it appears to be lost purport. It is clearly stated that the Gita was especially meant for the saintly kings because They were to execute its purpose in ruling over the citizens. Certainly, Bhagavad Gita was never meant for the demand persons who would dissipate its values for no one's benefit and would devise all types of interpretations according to personal whims. As soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to re-establish the disciplinic succession. 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord himself that the disciplinic succession was broken, and therefore he declared that the purpose of the Gita appeared to be lost. In the same way, at the present moment also, there were so many editions of the Gita, especially in English. But almost all of them were not according to authorized disciplinic succession. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by the different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, Krishna, although they make a good business on the words of Sri Krishna. This spirit is demonic because demons do not believe in God, but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English, as it is received by the Parampara, disciplic succession system, an attempt is made herewith to fulfill the great want. Bhagavad Gita, accepted as it is a great boon to humanity, but if it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculations, it is simply a waste of time. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So in the last word, Krishna told that how it was passing down in parampara system. But then what happened? Yogo nashta parantapa. This yoga, it just it was lost because the parampara got lost. So I am giving this again to you now. Imam Raja Shovidu Sakale Naha Mahata, over the period of time, Yogo Nashta Parantapa. So this parampara, it got lost. So I am giving this knowledge again to you now, Arjuna. Now, why did this parampara got lost? Prabhupada is explaining it in the purport here, and in his various lectures also it is explained, with great emphasis that how we have to be very careful about not losing our parampara, how important it is to retain our parampara system. In the purport also, Prabhupada is saying, as soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to re-establish the disciplic succession, because the knowledge got distorted due to some personal motives, and it was not passed on as it is. Slowly, everything just got disturbed. That's why Krishna had to re-establish it now. So therefore, Prabhupada, he hammered this point, that we should give the knowledge as it is. No concoctions, no mental speculations, no additions from our side, no subtraction from our side. That's what Prabhupada has done himself, and that's what he wants us to do. No, other religions these days, we see that they are becoming distorted. Why? Because knowledge is not handed over as it is. Any religion can just lose its importance if the knowledge is not handed over as it is. The latest example, Christianity also, we see the knowledge is thou shall not kill, but according to their mental concoctions, they have interpreted it in different ways. That Jesus wants to say we should not kill humans. We can kill animals or other living entities, no sin. But Jesus Christ didn't say that. He just said, thou shall not kill. Kill means whom do we kill? Something living. Any living entity should not be killed. But people just made it their own version, and they lost the importance of that thing. And this is a very serious matter. Prabhupada speaks about it very seriously at so many places, and this has happened to our sampradaya also, Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya. Just after some 300 years, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed, so many up-sampradayas came up. They were teaching they distorted all the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and were passing on different messages. And Vaishnavas, that time, Vaishnavism, it just became farce. People were not having faith in all that. And Vaishnavas were known to be only mundane beggars. It was only by the grace of Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur that all these teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were revived. So it's a very serious matter. Anytime anybody can get off the path if we are not following the parampara. The risk is always there. And Prabhupada says history repeats itself. It can happen to us anytime. We should be careful. Under the influence of Rajogun, under the influence of passion, our mind just speculates. Somebody's unmute. Gayatri Mataji, could you please go on mute? Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Okay, so because we all are under the influence of three modes, and when we are under the influence of passion, Rajogun, our mind is so restless. It's always giving us some thoughts, some speculations, and we feel like adding, subtracting something different we want to do. Even when Srila Prabhupada was personally present, there were some speculators in the movement. Speculations were happening. In the year 1969, some people, they were some the devotees in the movement, they were saying that Srila Prabhupada is God. And Srila Prabhupada had to be very strongly, he had to be very strong to put an end to all this. And he threw all those people out of the movement. He was like, I never told you that I am God. I am telling Krishna is God. How can you pass a different message, a wrong message? So Prabhupada had to throw them out of the movement. And recently also we just read that some devotees in Hawaii, they began some psychedelic sleep kind of a thing. It's some system to control the mind and focus it better on Krishna. They were teaching that, just lie down and just focus your mind on different aspects of the body, and then slowly bring it on Krishna and all that. And Srila Prabhupada just smashed it. He said, today you are teaching about this psychedelic sleep and all, and tomorrow you will say that LSD is very good for spiritual realization. And that really happened after some time. And Prabhupada had to smash that. So if we just go off the track, then we just lose our goal, we lose our path, and it's a very serious thing for us. And our acharyas are just not pleased by that. And we see here in Bangalore also the Ritvik issue. There is a deviation. We have to totally, just strictly follow Prabhupada's instructions and stay away from this tendency to speculate, because this tendency is always there. But we have to keep remembering Prabhupada's words, that this problem, Prabhupada would say that the problem with us is that we always want some change. If we keep repeating same thing, we are like, no, we need a change now, enough of it. That is our tendency. That is our problem. Prabhupada would tell that. Even in today's society, we see some prominent speakers, they tend to speculate and have a tendency to say something unique, something different to draw people's attention. No need to do anything like that. Srila Prabhupada always said that I have not done any magic. No, people would say that you are so great, you have done something amazing, something magical. Prabhupada would say, no, I have not done any magic. The only thing I have done is that I have repeated my Guru Maharaj's instructions. Same words I'm repeating as it is. That's it. I'm not doing any other magic. And the potency that comes from doing this only, following our Guru's instructions. Because originally, from where all the potency is coming? These words are originally coming from Krishna, the real potent person. Potency is coming from Krishna. The Balaram, Balaram expansion of Krishna. Bal means strength. He is our original Guru. The spiritual strength, the Bal, we get from Balaram. And then it is passed on through disciplic succession. And when the message is transmitted, it's passed on as it is, then the same potency, it flows down to us. The same benefit that Arjuna had by hearing to Krishna, that can be attained by us when we receive the message as it is through disciplic succession. And now Prabhupada has instructed us, we have got this instruction that we should pass the message on as it is. To pass the message as it is, we have to first get the message as it is, right? Therefore, it should be our top priority. What should we read? What should we hear? We should not get deviated by any mental speculations, any people like, this Ritvik issue here or anything like this. It should be our top priority. Reading Srila Prabhupada's books is the most important thing for us. If we don't know what is Srila Prabhupada's message, we won't be able to even discriminate, find out what is right, what is wrong. Now, when we read Prabhupada's books, we know what is right, what is wrong. And if we get to read some other Bhagavad-Gita, we can totally understand where it's going wrong. Otherwise, all Bhagavad-Gitas will be equally good for us. No difference between them. So it's our responsibility of every devotee who has come in connection with ISKCON, who has found the goal of life and is serious about advancing towards that goal, that we maintain this transparency, we maintain this system given by Prabhupada of receiving the knowledge as it is and passing it on as it is. Okay, so whenever we have some thoughts, some mental speculations, we should immediately refer to our seniors, refer to Srila Prabhupada's books. We should not just put some points on our own. Because when we hear the pure message from Srila Prabhupada, we get purified. That will bring transformation in our hearts. How does that happen? Because the sound vibration of the pure devotee, the words spoken by them, they touch the saffron dust particles of the lotus feet of Krishna. They touch the lotus feet, the dust particles of lotus feet of Krishna, and then they come to us. They enter our ears and then they go to our heart. And that's how our heart gets purified and transformation happens. If we listen to some, Prabhupada here is mentioning, Prabhupada is calling them demonic. There are, what is that? Yeah, this spirit is. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of God at Krishna. They don't even accept Krishna as God, and they are writing interpretations on Bhagavad Gita. So if we read books like that, if we listen to people like that, then no transformation will happen. Because they are doing all this in demonic spirit. They are just doing it as a business to make money. Okay, so if we really want some transformation, then the parampara system is very, very important. That is the important point here about maintaining the parampara system. And that's what Krishna is telling here, that parampara got lost and it can again happen. As I mentioned already, Prabhupada says history repeats itself. So we all have to be very careful, very responsible about it. Moving on to verse number 3. So in 3rd verse, Krishna is is telling that why he's giving this knowledge to Arjuna now. In the 1st verse, he told that I gave it to sun god. And we understood that, okay, 3rd chapter ended with lust and all, and now why sun god? Because sun god was the king, and that's why he was given this transcendental knowledge so that he could pass it on to his citizens, his disciples. Now here Krishna is telling why he's giving this knowledge to Arjuna. What are the qualifications to understand Bhagavad Gita? Okay, basically. Sa evayam mayate adya yoga prokta puratanaha bhakto asime sakha jeti rahasyam he etaduttamam. Who would read next?
I will do it, Mataji. This is
Yeah.
Ramana Prabhu.
Oh, thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah.
Krishna.
That very ancient science of relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Purport. There are two classes of men, namely the devotee and the demon. The Lord selected Arjuna as the recipient of this great science owing to his being a devotee of the Lord. But for the demon, it is not possible to understand this great mysterious science. There are a number of editions of this great book of knowledge. Some of them have commentaries by the devotees, and some of them have commentaries by the demons. Commentation by the devotee is real, whereas that of a demon is useless. Arjuna accepts Krishna as a supreme personality of Godhead, and any commentary on the Gita following in the footsteps of Arjuna is real devotional service to the cause of this great science. The demonic, however, do not accept the Lord as Krishna as he is. Instead, they concoct something about Krishna and mislead general readers from the path of Krishna's instructions. Here is a warning about such misleading paths. One should try to follow the disciplic succession from Arjuna and thus be benefited by this great science of Srimad Bhagavad-Gita. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Okay, so this is basically telling us about the qualifications to understand Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is saying, Bhakto asime sakha cheti. Why is he telling it to Arjuna? Because Arjuna is Krishna's devotee. Bhakto asime sakha and friend. You are my devotee and friend. Therefore, rahasyam hai tad uttamam. Therefore, you can understand this transcendental mystery, this rahasyam. Now, some people may, they ask this question that why Krishna is calling it a mystery. Bhagavad Gita, it's being distributed freely to everyone, every day, everywhere. Then where is the mystery? This book is open to all. What is the mystery? So mystery is, the real knowledge, the realized knowledge that we are soul, Krishna is the supreme, and what is our relationship with him. This all can be revealed only when one is not envious of Krishna. If someone is envious of Krishna, someone is not submissive, someone has not surrendered to Krishna, with full faith like Arjuna, then this knowledge, it cannot be revealed to us. Even if we read Bhagavad Gita, whatever number of times, no transformation will happen. It will still remain as a mystery. What special thing Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita? We don't know. We have read it so many times, but still we are the same people because we were not having the proper attitude, the right attitude to understand Bhagavad Gita. We have to hear it like Arjuna, with total faith, with a non-envious mentality, accepting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because the envious people, they can't accept Krishna's words with total faith, right? Because Krishna is calling himself the Supreme, he's glorifying himself, and is asking us to surrender to only him. So if somebody is envious of Krishna, if someone doesn't have total faith, if someone doesn't have a right attitude, then they will question, why Krishna is asking us to do that. How can he call himself this, that? There are people like this. I have also been asked all these questions. So if we have that attitude, we cannot understand Bhagavad Gita. We will keep questioning Krishna's position. So these are the qualities. We need to have total faith. We need to have total submission. We need to have a non-envious mentality, maintain a proper attitude, accept Krishna as the supreme, our best friend. Sakha, Arjuna is Krishna's friend. Krishna is our well-wisher also. Everybody's well-wisher. He is our best friend. And we have to become his devotee. In a devotional mode, when we read Bhagavad Gita, we can understand the right message and transformation happens. So this verse tells us about the right attitude we should carry, the qualification to understand Bhagavad Gita. Now in the fourth verse, Arjuna asks a question. Fourth verse, Arjuna uvacha अपरं भवतो जन्म परम जन्म विवस्वतः कथम एतद् विज्ञानीयां त्वम् आदौ प्रोक्तवान् इति. Who wants to read? Gayatri Mataji, Shweta Mataji.
I will read Mataji.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Arjuna said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? Purport. Arjuna is an accepted devotee of the Lord. So how could he not believe Krishna's words? The fact is that Arjuna is not inquiring for himself, but for those who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or for the demons who do not like the idea that Krishna should be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For them only, Arjuna inquires on this point, as if he were himself not aware of the personality of Godhead or Krishna. As it will be evident from the 10th chapter, Arjuna knew perfectly well that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fountainhead of everything, and the last word in transcendence. Of course, Krishna also appeared as the son of Devaki on this earth. How Krishna remained the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, the eternal, original person, is very difficult for an ordinary man to understand. Therefore, to clarify this point, Arjuna put this question before Krishna so that he himself could speak authoritatively. That Krishna is the supreme authority is accepted by the whole world, not only at present, but from time immemorial, and the demons all alone reject him. Anyway, since Krishna is the authority accepted by all, Arjuna put this question before him in order that Krishna would describe himself without being depicted by the demons, who always try to distort him in a way understandable to the demons and their followers. It is necessary that everyone, for his own interest, know the signs of Krishna. Therefore, when Krishna himself speaks about himself, it is auspicious for all the worlds. To the demons, such explanations by Krishna himself may appear to be strange because the demons always study Krishna from their own standpoint, but those who are devotees heartily welcome the statements of Krishna when they are spoken by Krishna himself. The devotees will always worship such authoritative statements of Krishna because they are always eager to know more and more about him. The atheists who consider Krishna an ordinary man may in this way come to know that Krishna is superhuman, that he is Satchidananda Vigraha, the eternal form of bliss and knowledge, that he is transcendental, and that he is above the domination of the modes of material nature and above the influence of time and a devotee of Krishna like Arjuna is undoubtedly above any misunderstanding of the transcendental position of Krishna. Arjuna's putting this question before the Lord is simply an attempt by the devotee to defy the atheistic attitude of persons who consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being subject to the modes of material nature. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So here Arjuna is asking the question that how could Krishna remember everything? The sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. So how am I to understand that in beginning you instructed, you are like my peer and sun god is much more senior than you. How could you instruct it to him? So Prabhupada begins the purport by raising a question that why Arjuna asked it. Why Arjuna had to ask such a question. And Prabhupada then gives the explanation also that he asked it for the benefit of common people. Arjuna knew who Krishna is. He was very much aware that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, fountainhead of everything. He is the last word in the transcendence. But common people, they may mistake Krishna to be an ordinary person. When Krishna appears as the son of a Devaki, and people can get bewildered. Even Brahma got bewildered. So common people will get bewildered. So to establish the fact that Krishna is the supreme, to establish this authoritatively, Arjuna asked this question, that when Krishna himself will tell about it, people will have faith on that. And then the second reason is that Arjuna wanted to Krishna to speak about his about himself, about his birth, about his glories. So again, so that it could be established authoritatively. What is the position of Krishna? Just after, yeah, this first point only Prabhupada is explaining. Anyway, since Krishna is the authority accepted by all, Arjuna put this question before him in order that Krishna would describe himself without being depicted by the demons. So Krishna can't tell anything about himself if he's not asked about it. So it's only because Arjuna puts up question like this, Krishna will start telling that, okay, I am this, I was this, you are this, what is the difference between me and others? So he will talk about all this. If he doesn't tell all that, then demons, atheistic people, they will find out their own theories about Krishna. And that will just be totally wrong for common people as well. So when Krishna speaks about himself, it is auspicious for all the worlds. It's a true knowledge, it's a transcendental knowledge, and it's the right knowledge. It's auspicious also for all the worlds. That's why it's best to hear about Krishna from himself. So for these two reasons, Arjuna is asking this question. That's what Prabhupada is explaining to us in the purport. Okay. Moving on to verse number 5 now. So now Lord will begin to speak. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha, verse number 5. Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava cha Arjuna tani aham veda sarvani na tvam vedha parantapa. Someone please read. Satvik Krishna Prabhuji, you want to read verse number 5th, translation and purport? Okay. Gayatri Mataji, you would want to read again? Shweta Mataji, Prasanthi Mataji, Manish Prabhu, can you read?
Okay, Mataji. Purport by His Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In the Brahma Samhita 5.33, we have information of many incarnations of the Lord. It is stated there, Advaitam Achittam Anandim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Nav Yovanam Cha Videshu Durlabham Atma Bhakta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamham Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda Krishna, who is the original person, absolute, infallible, without beginning. Although expanded into unlimited form, he is still the same original, the oldest and the person always appearing as a fresh youth. Such eternal, blissful, all-knowing forms of the Lord are usually not understood by even the best Vedic scholar, but they are always manifest to pure, unalloyed devotees. It is also stated in Brahma Samhita 5.39. Ramadi Murtisukal Niyamino Tishtan Nan Mritamam Akrodh Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Sambhavat Paramah Pumyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamham Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who is always situated in various incarnations such as Ram, Narsimha, and many sub-incarnations as well, but who is the original personality of Godhead known as Krishna, and who incarnates personally also. In the Vedas, also it is said that the Lord, although one without a second, manifests himself in innumerable forms. He is like the Vaidurya stone, which changes color yet still remains one. All those multiforms are understood by the pure unalloyed devotees, but not by a simple study of the Vedas. Videsu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakta. Devotees like Arjuna are constant companion of the Lord, and whenever the Lord incarnates, the associate devotees also incarnates in order to serve the Lord in different capacities. Arjuna is one of those devotees, and in this verse, it is understood that some millions of years ago, when Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivaswan, Arjuna in a different capacity was also present. But the difference between Lord and Arjuna is that the Lord remembered the incident, whereas Arjuna could not remember. That is the difference between the part and the parcel living entity and the Supreme Lord. Although Arjuna is addressed herein as the mighty hero who could subdue the enemies, he is unable to recall what had happened in his various past births. Therefore, a living entity, however great he may be in the material estimation, can never equal the Supreme Lord. Anyone who is a constant companion of the Lord is certainly a liberated person, but he cannot be equal to the Lord. The Lord is described in the Brahma Samhita as infallible, achitya, which means that he never forgets himself, even though he is in material contact. Therefore, the Lord and the living entity can never be equal in all respects. Even if the living entity is as liberated as Arjuna, although Arjuna is a devotee of the Lord, he sometimes forgets the nature of the Lord. But by the divine grace, a devotee can at once understand the infallible condition of the Lord, whereas a non-devotee or a demon cannot understand this transcendental nature. Consequently, this description in the Gita cannot be understood by demonic brains. Krishna remembered acts which were performed by him millions of years before, but Arjuna could not, despite the fact that both Krishna and Arjuna are eternal in nature. We may also note herein that the living entity forgets everything due to his change of body, but the Lord remembers because he does not change his Satchidanand body. He is Advait, which means there is no distinction between his body and himself. Everything in relation to him is split, whereas the conditioned soul is different from the material body. And because the Lord's body and the self are identical, his position is always different from that of the ordinary living entity. Even when he descends to the material platform, the demons cannot adjust themselves to this transcendental nature of the Lord, which the Lord himself explains in the following words. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So Krishna is telling that, Arjuna had questioned that how is it possible that you could speak to sun god? So Krishna's answer is that many, many births, both you and I passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy, Parantapa. And then in the purport, Prabhupada is explaining the difference between Jiva, ordinary living entity, and the Lord. That difference is always maintained. Even if someone is as close to Krishna as Arjuna is a companion of Krishna, his eternal associate. In every pastime, Arjuna is there with Krishna. But still he is a part and parcel of Krishna. And he cannot be equal to God. Okay. So the first part, like the first two Brahma Samhita verses, Prabhupada has explained the position of Krishna, that how he is absolute, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Anantarupam, is absolute, infallible, without any beginning. He can expand into unlimited forms, but still he is the same original, the oldest, and the person always appearing as a fresh youth. Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam cha. He's Purana, the oldest person, but still he's Navayovanam cha. He's the youngest also, always as fresh as a youth. So that is Krishna, how he's different from us. The next verse again, Rama Dimurti Shukala Niyamena Tishthan. So I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always situated in various incarnations. He is the Supreme. He takes so many incarnations as Rama, Narsimha, and many sub-incarnations as well. but who is the original personality of Godhead known as Krishna. Krishna Swayam Sambhavat Paramaha Pumanayo Govindamadi Purusham Tamham Bhajami. So Prabhupada is telling us who Krishna is, and then he starts explaining who we are in comparison to Krishna. Krishna is like the Vaidurya stone, which changes color yet still remains one. So Krishna can appear in innumerable incarnations, but still he remains the one and only Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Prabhupada says, devotees like Arjuna are constant companions of the Lord. Whenever Lord incarnates, they are there with the Lord to take part in those pastimes. Arjuna is one of those devotees. So because Krishna is telling many, many births, both you and I have passed. So he has been with Krishna for many, many years now, for many, many births. But Arjuna has forgotten all this. Arjuna is in a different capacity. I mean, the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Sun God, Arjuna was present there that time also. Maybe not as Arjuna, as some other devotee in some other form. But Krishna remembers all that, and Arjuna has forgotten that. And why that happens? We forget everything. Krishna remembers everything about our previous, about each and every living entity. Krishna remembers everything. We hardly remember things about yesterday also. That is the difference between Krishna and us. To make us humble, we have to understand our position. Whenever we are puffed up, we should remember who we are actually. What is our significance in comparison to Krishna? How helpless and how minute we are. Arjuna, Krishna is calling Arjuna as Parantapa. Parantapa is subduer of the enemy. That you are so strong, you are a mighty hero. But still, you can't recall what happened in the various past births. So Prabhupada tells, therefore, a living entity, however great he may be in the material estimation, can never equal the Supreme Lord. People may claim that they are very intelligent, they have discovered this, they have invented this and that, but nobody can equal the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is infallible, is Achyuta. He never forgets himself. Rather, he never forgets anything about us also. Therefore, Lord and living entity can never be equal in all respects. We have the qualities of the Lord, but quantity is really, really different. There's a vast difference between that. So Arjuna is, Prabhupada saying, he is liberated. The living entity is as liberated as even if someone is liberated, Arjuna is the eternal associate of Krishna. He's just here to take part in Krishna's pastimes. He's a liberated person, but still he can't remember what happened. And why this happens, again, Prabhupada explains as we go down in the purport. Krishna remembered acts which were performed by him millions of years before, but Arjuna could not, despite the fact that both of them are eternal in nature. We may note herein that a living entity forgets everything due to the change of body. But the Lord remembers because he does not change his Sat Chit Anand body. He is Advaita, which means there is no distinction between his body and himself, Advaita. But we people pass on from one body to another, and whatever happened in our previous body, we just forget that. And we keep moving like this, and that's how Arjuna doesn't remember what Krishna remembers, which happened many, many thousands of years ago, 5,000 years ago. Long before that, yeah. So when Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Sun God, Krishna remembers, but Arjuna doesn't remember that. Okay, so that is till verse number 5. It's already 8:05 now. And verse number 6 is, it's a long purport again. I don't think we can cover it up. So, okay, no problem. We will continue next time. Any question or any realization, any reflections, anybody want to share? Okay. So thank you everybody for joining in and listening and reading Bhagavad Gita as it is. Srila Prabhupada's commentaries are really potent, as we understood today in the discussion, that how parampara, if it is maintained, the potency just passes on as it is. So with full faith, with full sincerity, regularity, if we read these purpose by Srila Prabhupada, read the Bhagavad Gita as it is, it can really help in our purification and transformation of our heart and help us in attaining our goal. So everybody, thank you so much for joining in today. We will meet next week now and continue from verse number 6. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mata.